The old world has long since gone, and many an event has befallen during the past decades. Old paradigms have radically shifted, collapsed with the opening of the seven seals. Today, the surface of the earth is home to the poor souls who somehow survived the start of the end times. The wretched who were born in the time since, and those who managed to make a living after resurrection of the flesh, when all souls of the dead since the beginning of time reincarnated at the same time in new bodies. This surprising collection of survivors, new generations, and returned, all broken, desperate, and constantly on the brink of losing their sanity, in their own ways is known collectively as the last of humanity, or last humans, all that is left of the human species among the ruins of the world, though probably not for long as they await the last judgment. Welcome to Apocalypse, specifically a book known as John's Guide to the Armageddon, a Dungeons and Dragons hack of the 5th edition rules tabletop role-playing game, playing through Revelation, the end times of the Bible. So yesterday, I did an introduction of 3 books that make up this biblical setting, and I was a little hesitant to maybe continue talking about it this week, but I couldn't get my mind off of it, and that was due to some personal issues as well. So, well, guess what? You guys are going to have to suffer through my particular personal issues. So we're going to page through and talk about some of the character options if you are going to make a character that plays in the end times of the apocalypse. And this is an Italian produced role-playing game using the Creative Commons rules of Dungeons and Dragons, better known as 5th edition, and some of the options that are possible for characters. Now, collectively, it does mention that players aren't going to play different races. They are going to just play different types of people that have returned for the end times. It goes through the release of the 7 seals and what happens at the end of happens during the period of time of the end of each of those 7 seals. It even suggests playing as individuals that may have been survivors and actually viewers of participants of witnesses of the 7 seals happening over and over and over again, and the last destruction of the world. This generally takes place with Italy being the center of the world, with the last known human settlement known as Babylonia, and spreading out of there all of the 4 horsemen who have gone to the 4 corners of Europe, which is the only thing left in this world, and you play a character in this particular time. Now, there's Last Humanity, also in the book known as The Last Ones, and it describes the options, and so I thought we'd just go through descriptions of the options and things like that. So I thought we'd have some fun with it. On the screen is artwork from the book, where it mentions in one of the passages that the light from the sun has been ripped from the sky, covered by a red moon, and so it is like an eclipse. So this is daylight. this is as much daylight as you're going to get in a blasted world of dust and debris and miles of corpses and things of that nature. Hell on earth, essentially. It is a battlefield for the last battle for humanity, and you play a character in that particular this particular world. Now, it does mention these passages. It does mention a lot about modifying characters and things. For example, it does mention about playing other races, although they suggest that you don't do that. This is to embrace the idea that you're playing at the end times of humanity, that they suggest that you play basically a human being who is caught in a fight, not just for the physical, the your physical survival, but the survival of humanity itself, an existential threat of sin and virtue, of culture and life and peace and tranquility, and how much that has disappeared. So there is a breakout box about alignment, and essentially alignment doesn't exist any longer, and it is replaced with something known as virtue and sin. So when making a character, we are going to we're going to go a little bit step by step, not necessarily making a character, but some of the character options, and talk about that. It even brings up the point of like birth, life, death, age, and death, and how many of humanity that's been living in limbo or purgatory has returned back, and that their children don't exist any longer because many of them have been wiped away. As a matter of fact, the youngest people in this world are no more than 20 years old. There should not be children of the old world currently alive who are younger than 20 years old, or children of apocalypse older than that. And that is because many people that have returned back at a particular prime age, as it would be, even if they had passed away or had sacrificed themselves or martyred themselves in pursuit for or against the powers of the throne and the horde, and better known as heaven and hell, and return back to this life to walk upon the earth with bloody feet. Babylonia is like I said, is the last known city of humanity, and this last known city is the player. As a player, you can be on the side of known as the host or heaven. You can choose to fight for the side of hell or the horde, the abyss, the infernals, or you could be someone in the middle, not necessarily neutral, but someone who doesn't really want to be part of either side. And yes, you can switch sides, and it actually suggests that maybe that might be a good thing. Also, this book talks about surviving in this world, and because of the last known city, there are refugees all spread all over the world, hiding in the corners as heaven and hell does battle, and you as a player character may be one of those people. We're trying to rescue them. And the one cool thing here that I really like are the sins and virtues. So last ones are each different individuals and possess unique abilities and skills deriving from the virtue they embody and the capital sin by which they are tormented. So in the end times, your sins and virtue become a physical representation presented in this world. Essentially, the only reason you're even around is probably because of how strong of a tie your life has been, being pulled between your sins and virtues. Everybody else who was like middling and kind of average, probably gone. At this point, there are a lot of people who've like put their foot down or made decisions in their life and are extraordinary in making those things, and player characters are those. So every last one possesses one virtue and one sin chosen from the ones provided below. During their adventures, the last one can change, achieve redemption or corruption, and that will be reflected by their main sin and virtue. In agreement with the guide, that would be the Dungeon Master. And according to the character's behavior during gameplay, a player can modify these traits at any point that such a change becomes particularly significant. A character, however, must always have no more than a single sin and virtue at any given time, cannot accumulate more or remove them entirely, at least not until the Last Judgment. And so there are, of course, a list of virtues. I think you guys would understand what they were, with a few added ones, and then of course there are sins related to that. And yes, there are mechanical features attached to each one. Let's see what you guys have to say. Ooh. Yeah. End time of humanity equals play an elf who lives for 300 years. Yeah. That's why they don't suggest you if you play like dwarves and elves and gnomes, it kind of pulls you away out of this concept here. So I wouldn't suggest it, but yeah. Babylonia's system is the vampires sucking the blood of sufferers. Something like that. Something like that. There's actually something kind of fun and cool that it talks about like the languages and stuff, because the human language in the city of Babylonia is now called Babel talk, and that all other languages are like this undecipherable mishmash of things. That's really cool. So, sins and virtues. So we have ourselves fortitude. This virtue symbolizes your perseverance and inner will, your ability to endure physical trauma, deprivations, wounds, and fatigue in order to pursue your ideals. You face every challenge head on without hesitation. You will never doubt your ability to overcome any obstacle standing in your way or to endure any blow you are dealt. And then, of course, they have them. It ends with the mechanical feature. You have advantage on strength and constitution saving throws. You choose which saving throw when you select this virtue. You also gain resistance to force damage, which is rare in Dungeons & Dragons, but also kind of cool. Oops. It's clicking. Another virtue is prudence. This virtue symbolizes your discernment, rationality, mental training. It also represents your fondness for knowledge and your ability to endure mental assaults and psychic aggressions. You have advantage on intelligence or wisdom saving throws. You choose which one. You also gain resistance to psychic damage, which is another rarity. There's a temperance as a virtue. This virtue symbolizes your inner and physical balance, your moderation, and the ability to ignore any distraction, sudden noise, temptation, or physical hindrance. You have advantage on dexterity or charisma saving throws. You choose which saving throw when you select the virtue. You also gain resistance to thunder damage. And there's justice as a virtue. This virtue symbolizes your willpower and moral compass. It also represents your consistency, firmness, and your ability to endure what could make you upset or feel lost. You face every challenge in compliance with your moral code, even when this pits you against your faction, your own physical limits, your own interests, and even your own survival. You have advantage on strength or wisdom saving throws. Of course, you have to pick one. And then you gain resistance to lightning damage. And then there's faith, hope, and so on. Faith is symbolizes your utter and unyielding dedication to your cause, the unshakable rigor which allows you to endure without flinching the slings and arrows of fate. You always speak with your head held high, and you always stand fast. You have advantage with saving throws against spells. You also gain resistance to fire damage. I think that's one of the best. There's hope. This virtue symbolizes your firm belief in attaining your ultimate goal or your faction's goal. Hope is the inner fire feeding your determination and allowing you to overcome any physical obstacle, hindrance, deprivation, doubt, or deception. You are always the optimist, and you know you will come out unscathed from any situation and no ill omen will undermine your beliefs. You have advantage on constitution or intelligence saving throws. You choose which, and then you also gain resistance to cold damage. And then there's charity. Symbolizes your sympathy for the whole of creation, its living beings, and its last humans. A feeling of kindness and self-dedication that can overcome hate, indifference, and selfishness, even among Armageddon's disasters and evils. You are always friendly and helpful with those you meet, and you always try to understand their reasons and needs so that you may reach an agreement and compromise whenever possible. You have advantage on dexterity or charisma saving throws. You must pick one. You also gain resistance to acid damage, probably from the vile spittle from other people, even though you're trying to be charitable. And then there's, of course, the opposite end of that, and you guys know, like the classics, 7 sins. Of course, there's the virtues that are the opposite of that. There's pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. And for each of these, of course, there's a mechanical feature attached to it. And one of the cool things about having a mechanical feature attached to a virtue and sin that every player character has is that, of course, you really should be role playing into those things. But also it just means that because these can change throughout the course of play, how you play your character can also lead to the mechanical feature that you obtain. So a player may want to take on a new level of faith so that they get the mechanical bonus, but they are role playing their character in the last days of Revelation in doing so, right? Maybe they find a charred Bible or something and start holding on to it tightly, role playing, and trying to read the words and whatnot, and then therefore they're saying, you know, overtly telling the player characters and the guy, the dungeon master, like, hey, listen, my character's starting to change your faith, and oh, by the way, I'm going to get this other feature, right? You know, which I think both are acceptable. I think in a tabletop role playing game, and I'd give a little slow clap for that. Yeah, okay, all right, I'm gonna go with that. Yeah, that makes sense. Be fun. So anyway, pride. This sin symbolizes the ultimate arrogance and the aloofness, the very sin that tainted Lucifero at the dawn of times, better known as Lucifer to us in the States. You hate fleeing from a fight, etc., etc. You have advantage on saving throws to resist or end the charmed condition on yourself and on saving throws against enchantment spells. For greed, symbolizes an unchecked avidity and irresistible longing to possess items and information, goods and secrets, and the constant desire to maintain these privileges no matter the cost. You always try to scoop up anything you can lay your hands on, even if you have to steal it, or if you have to risk your life, your mission, or burden you with excessive weight. You are considered one size larger when determining the amount of weight you can push, drag, or lift. In addition, choose one of the three following options. You only get one. You have proficiency with a weapon of your choice. It must be a simple weapon or a martial weapon. Or you have proficiency with one type of armor of your choice, such as studded leather, mail shirt, or scale mail. Or you have proficiency with one type of tools of your choice: forgery kit, thieves' tools, poisoner's kit, or one type of artisan's tools, or one type of musical instrument. And of course, with these options, you automatically get that in your starting equipment. Probably stolen from or taken from, acquired from someone else. So that means that, of course, if you were playing a wizard type character, you could be proficient with, you know, either wearing armor or having a long sword or something like that. Lust. This symbolizes sensuality and carnality taken to extremes, an obsessive and reckless dedication to the lewdest acts, including those which mortify the flesh and train the body to all types of transgressions. I like the wording on that. You act roughly and provocatively in all occasions, displaying your appetites and your lasciviousness nature. You have advantage on ability checks and saving throws to resist or to end the grappled and restrained conditions on yourself. But I like it. In addition, although you can picture it, right? In addition to complete a long rest, you only need 6 hours instead of 8. You have to sleep for at least 4 hours and spend up to 2 hours in light activity, such as talking, eating, entertaining yourself, or standing watch. Definitely entertaining yourself. There's envy and unreasonable malevolence and hostility towards those who are in a better position than you, or who are simply enjoying a pleasant and fortunate situation. This sin symbolizes an unreasonable. It was printed twice. Ooh, I saw a mistake. You are blinded with hate towards those who fare better than you. You stare at them gloomily. You try to harm them in any way you can, or spread ill rumors about them. You never forget a slight, or what you perceive as a slight, and you always bide your time to get your revenge. You have an advantage on saving throws to resist or end the blinded and deafened conditions on yourself. In addition, you have advantage on checks to recall memories and past events. And then there's gluttony, an unhealthy obsession with the pleasures of taste, and the unquenchable desire to swallow food and drinks. You're obsessed with rations, supplies, and banquets, and willing to do anything to find and consume as much food as possible, especially if it tastes good, even if you have to snatch it from your companions or those who need it most. You have advantage on saving throws to resist or end the poisoned condition on yourself, and on saving throws against exhaustion effects. You also have advantage on any check involving the consumption of food and drinks. I also think like the virtue sin thing, especially the sins, kind of can work against your other player characters, and although it may be an excuse for some players who love to disrupt the harmony in a role-playing group, I think it would be pretty fun for players to be like, yeah, oh no, he's just greedy. Like, yeah, the fact that he stole our stuff, like that's Joe, because Joe's suffering from their sin. Okay, there's wrath. Two more. Symbolize your feeble morality and your inadequacy to withstand tension. You tend to give in to anger and to overreact. You hate being contested, contradicted, or cornered, and you cannot handle a negotiation or a conflict without giving into outraged cries or sudden acts of violence. You have advantage on saving throws to resist or end the paralyzed and frightened conditions on yourself. In addition, you can use dash as a bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all spent uses when you complete a long rest. And lastly, there's sloth. Utter passivity, laziness, and a languid resignation to the will of fate. You look constantly unmotivated, sleepy, and dazed. And you never make a precise decision or a clear position. You do not care at all about what is happening around you, and you think that any action taken by those around you is useless in front of what is going on. You have an advantage on saving throws to resist or end the stunned condition on yourself, and magic can't put you to sleep. In addition, you only need to eat and drink half of what is usually required in a day without suffering exhaustion effects. Although I do think that's a little bit ironic, because it's like, resist sleep, like sloth. You're like, can I get another sleep spell, please? But anyway, those are the sins and virtues, and I think you can have some fun like picking the two. That, by the way, it does replace the alignment, somewhat the unused alignment system in Dungeons and Dragons. But I think it's kind of cool, especially to be able to switch it around and change it around and stuff. The Bob Marley song, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ignore that, dude. Yeah. Speaking of Babylonian language, you know about the Georgia Guidestones and how they wrote part of it in cruciform? I do not know anything about that. Oh shit. Musical instrument post-apocalypse. That's why I just bought an indestructible carbon graphite ukulele. Oh no. To annoy the shit out of the survivors so they execute me, thereby ensuring a swift fate. Oh no. Resist sleep can only mean one thing: D&D speed. Hells yeah. No, I think it's because if you're slothful, you're already so sleepy that the sleep spell doesn't really have much of an effect on you. It's just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, they're yeah, players of Apocalypse do not choose a background for their last ones. Each player must choose the origin for their character from the list of options provided in the setting manual. Each origin confers specific traits to the character. So in other words, in classic 5th edition style, there are backgrounds, and instead you know what you were in the past doesn't matter as much. It's just it depends on how you've returned or survived in the end days, and that becomes your what they call your origin, your background. And I love these little breakout boxes. It looks like it's been ripped from a parchment or something like that. Maybe my role in the end times is to remember cities, crowds, busy market days, ports, dancing, how things tasted, but most of all the sun, the moon, the stars. The mere thought of having lost so much so swiftly leaves me breathless. We never had time to recover between one disaster and the next, each more devastating than what came before it. I do not know how we survived, how we held fast with no shelter, no cures, no faith to cling to. We had never felt so lost and abandoned. We had lost the very idea of hope. There is a little bit of a hint in this medieval-ish, neo-medieval, last days revelation, biblical end times, that this game is happening after the modern age. Because it does talk about, I mean, there are words in here talk about skyscrapers and flying through the air and things like that. And now, mind you, that none of that exists at this particular period of time, because at the apocalypse, and it's Dungeons and Dragons, but it does suggest that there might be like maybe collapsed skyscrapers around, or like rusted out hulks of ingenuity and progression of humanity and things like that. A little bit of Thundar the Barbarian concept in here, and I think that would be kind of cool to like layer in the background when the players are walking around with like armor and weapons and medieval things, that that object hanging on the side of your belt might have been an old cell phone or whatever. You just don't know what it used to be, or that it has any use except to be like a black brick of glass or whatever. So here's some of the options. There's a child of the old world. The children of the old world are survivors who have had to develop their skills and abilities to make it alive through the perils of Armageddon. They still remember what life was like in the old world, and even though it might seem like outdated knowledge, it can still turn out to be useful. And if you know how Dungeons and 5th edition works, there's like ability score increases, skill proficiencies, tool proficiencies, extra language, and equipment. So it's like a background, but it also has ability scores attached to it, and it does have a feature. And sometimes, like for example, in this one, you are a child of the old world. You are not an actual physical child. That's just the name. For example, they do have a tool proficiency of an herbalist kit or artisan tools. And then in your equipment, there's like an herbalist kit, the artisan tools you're proficient with, a bedroll, set of traveler's clothes, 10 torches, tinderbox, 1 healing potion, which is rarity, a backpack, and a pouch containing 10 gold pieces. And it's because basically you're carrying whatever is on your back, and you've been able to survive this long. Apparently, you must be able to recover some way. Broken bones, poisons, diseases, and things, so they have a healing potion thrown in there. And then your feature of memories of the old world. When a child of the old world attempts to learn or recall a piece of lore, if they do not know that information, they can often know where and from whom they can obtain it. Usually the information sought is held in a place in Babylonia, an isolated monastery, or hidden shelter on the plain. The capital word plain, the plain, is the plain of Armageddon. It's the cratered landscape that rolls out to the horizon that's blasted. It's simply known as the plain of Armageddon, or simply the plain. But anyway, hidden shelter on the plain, or known by a sage or other learned person or creature. The guide will determine whether the knowledge sought is accessible at all. Bringing to light one or more hidden secrets of the apocalypse could be an adventurer's objective, or even that of an entire campaign. And if you really wanted to talk, like have this happen as if it was modern day, maybe a children of the old world would know, like, that's a shopping mall and that's a cell phone or whatever, things like that. Then there's the child of the apocalypse. You could play one of those. The children of the apocalypse were born after the opening of the first seal, and the only home they have ever known is the plain of Armageddon. They know about the old world only through the tales of the survivors or trinkets that can still sometimes be found among the rubble. They are tempered by the end times that have learned how to survive the threats of the apocalypse. And then there's the mechanical features: ability score increase, skill proficiencies, tool proficiency like artisan tool. They're also storm-born. You were born during the upheavals of the end times, and you are naturally toughened to resist this plagued world. Your hit point maximum increases by 1, and it increases by 1 again whenever you gain a level. And some equipment: healer's kit, artisan tools, bedroll, torches, short bow, quiver, arrows. And then accustomed to Armageddon. A child of the apocalypse was born and grew up in a world of ruin, devastated and shaken by uncontrollable calamities. As a result, they are more skilled than other survivors at adapting, orienting themselves, and understanding its unnatural geographies. In a world lacking sense and points of reference, they're able to recall the general layout of the landscape, settlements, and other landmarks around them. Basically, if you want, and you don't really want to deal with characters getting lost, this is a child of the apocalypse is someone who can navigate through the landscape. There's also risen from hell. Thanks to the resurrection of the flesh, the souls trapped in the eternal punishment of hell have reclaimed their bodies and now walk the earth once more. Finding a new, ruined world different from the one they remembered, they live through this second chance with the lingering memory of torture and pain to which they were subjected. Yes, you can return back from hell to stand judgment. And there's ability score increases, some skill proficiencies you can pick, 2 of them. You have an extra language of infernal, probably because it was spit in your face the entire time you were down in hell. You also gain dark vision. You can see in dim light within 60 feet as if it were bright light, and in darkness as if it were dim light. You can't discern color in darkness, only shades of gray. You have memories from the blind world. You maintain certain abilities you learned when you worshipped fiends during your fearsome sojourn in the blind world. You know the chill touch cantrip, starting at 3rd level. You can cast the inflict wounds spell. You can also cast these spells using available spell slots if you have it. And then Shard of Eternal Pain. You are haunted by a fit of torment that can never be healed. The unyielding memory of the pain you suffered in hell, which you can use to inflict pain on others as well. Once per turn, when dealing damage to a target with an extra attack, with an attack or spell, you can deal a number of extra necrotic damage equal to your proficiency bonus. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. And then there's a bunch of equipment like a painful memento taken from hell, which reminds you of the centuries you spent in the underworld, such as a sharp rock, a lock of hair, a shard of horn. Maybe a piece of that whip that was used by the fiendish beings that were punishing you, and you have a chunk of it or something. And you also have the Scars of the Last Ones feature. It has been 2 decades since the resurrection of the flesh, but despite this, the scars accrued from the uncountable years spent in hell have not yet fully healed and probably never will. People who come across a character with his origin will recognize a tormented soul that literally went through hell, an ancient sinner sentenced to punishment and made flesh again, someone who cannot entirely be trusted. Common folk will treat them with hesitation and a touch of fear, trying not to get in their way where possible and as long as the character does not pose a threat. Additionally, other risen from hell will recognize them as a peer and could feel an instinctive complicity. And I think the story-wise, who your character was. Maybe you were an ancestor from another player's character that did something evil. Why was it you were sent to hell in the first place? Maybe you're trying to make amends for that. Or maybe you are continuing to live out whatever it was, what evils you did before you were risen from hell. So, yeah. The infernal language. As a DM, have you ever considered, practicing what that might sound like? I don't know. It might sound like what's the affliction? Tourette syndrome. It's just basically like seven curse words all strung together in a mishmash. I don't know. I don't know what that would sound like. It would have to sound extremely vile and spit-filled, I think, with a lot of gnawing and tongue lashings and stuff. I don't know what that. Yeah, it would have to sound. To me, even if you didn't understand the language, I think it would make you feel uncomfortable hearing it. Like a stranger licking the inside of your ear. You know what I mean? Like oh, you know, or someone, I don't know, reaching and touching your unmentionables without their consent, like you know, I don't know, it's just an icky feeling. Just yeah. Yeah. It sounds just like that. Anybody out there who would like to make that a sound effect, please send it to me. After my vomitous nature, I will then place it up in a sound bite. But yeah. Yes. I think it would sound just like that. Yeah, mother. All right, there's risen from heaven, which I think is strange. It would sound like it would be. I said this the other day, like fall from heaven. But anyway, due to the resurrection of the flesh, all the souls that were granted beatitude. Never heard that word before. Oops, nope. Beatitude and eternal proximity to the Lord were wrenched away from heaven and cast back onto the mortal world. They were forced to live once more a life of toil, hardship, and terror in the dangers and devastation of Armageddon. Many of these risen, unable to withstand this new horrifying reality, ended up committing those sins they had avoided for so long in their previous lives. Others have simply let themselves die. Others still, in order to survive, committed injustices, trickery, and violence, causing themselves to fall into the abyss or the tormented souls of death's domain. 2 decades after the terrifying ordeal, very few risen from heaven remain. Many have rejected their previous holy status, living day by day and harboring a mixture of badly concealed hatred and convenient devotion towards the armies of the Lord, the cause of so much of their suffering. I wonder, I understand this is a part of, I answered my own question. Okay. It would make me wonder, as a person who is, if I'm playing a risen from heaven, being thrown, basically being at the footsteps of the Lord and then being thrown into this harsh, devastated world. Why was I done so? Now I can see some going like, oh, well, I'm being tested, but there would be many that would be, you know, if you're living in a utopia, the light of hope and justice and peace cast upon you, and then you're thrown into the end times of devastation. You're like, why? Please, no. I think it would drive you very much insane. So yeah, I could see people going, you know, and of course trying to survive in this world because there isn't alignment, doesn't exist any longer, and everyone's trying to scramble like an apocalypse to survive, which means that you're more likely than not going to commit a lot of atrocities just for daily survival. So yeah. So anyway, abilities to score increase, some skill proficiencies you get to choose, extra language of celestial. You gain blind sight within 20 feet. Within that distance, you can effectively see anything that is not behind total cover, even if blinded or in darkness. You also gain You also can see invisible creatures within that radius unless that creature is successfully hidden. That's kind of cool. Blind sight. It's pretty powerful. You also have memories from the Empyrean. You maintain certain abilities you learned when you worshipped angels during your haunting sojourn in the sky of fixed stars. You know the spare the dying cantrip. And at third level, you can also, starting at third level, with this trait, you can cast the Heal Wounds spell once and regain the ability when you have a long rest. And then starting at fifth level, with this trait, you can cast the Moonbeam spell once. You can also cast these spells, basically, if you have spellcasting ability. And you have something else known as Celestial Longing. You are haunted by a regret for the celestial bliss you have lost, maybe forever. This regret cannot be healed, and you can use it to inflict pain on others. Once per turn when dealing damage with an attack, you could deal a number of extra radiant damage equal to your proficiency bonus. You're so pissed off. Also, you have equipment such as something like a painful memento taken from the ninth sky, which reminds you of the centuries you spent in heaven, such as a feather, the glint of a star, or a crystallized tear, and a couple of gold pieces, which I think would pretty much be useless. And you have a feature, the Scent of Holiness. Despite the resurrection of the flesh having taken place 2 decades ago, the character emanates a faint celestial aura and scent, reminding others of their otherworldly origin. People who meet the character recognize a blessed being, at least at some point in their past, and therefore, once worthy of the great reward. Common folk will address them with kindness and trust. Additionally, other risen from heaven will recognize them as a peer and could feel instinctive complicity. I could see there being some hatred, too, from other people, like, you were once there, why were you thrown back? Maybe it's something you did wrong. There's risen from purgatory, which is different, because there's also risen from limbo as well. Of all the souls who reincarnated during the resurrection of the flesh, those who came back from purgatory were among the ones who kept their sanity, hope of redemption, and a somewhat practical determination. After all, they had been sinners in life, but never committed capital offenses and still hold hope for ascension after the last judgment. So those in purgatory are kind of like, they were like awaiting the last judgment. So this is kind of par for the course, basically. Yeah, what is Armageddon if not an extreme version of purgatory? So they do have certain abilities, extra language, like for example, you know the old world tongue as a language. You vaguely recall the languages spoken in the old world mixed and scrambled together into one language. Yep. It's the retcon of Babylon, the Tower of Babel. So instead of common in this world as a Dungeons and Dragons language, there is the Babel tongue, spoken in Babylonia, and all the languages having combined back together again into the original language. That here they just call it Babel. You have blind sight, which is, I think, is pretty amazing and crazy, and memories from the mountain. You maintain certain supernatural abilities, and I think if you know Planescape, you'll see where this comes from. Okay, memories from the mountain. You maintain certain supernatural abilities you learned during your never-ending climb up the mountain that once stood on the other end of the world. You know the resistance cantrip. Starting at 3rd level with this trait, you can cast a Long Strider spell, and then starting at 5th level, there's some artwork, Survivor, a little bit of survival Mad Max. Yeah, when I survive, come with me. You can cast a protection from poison spell once and regain the ability to do so. You also have the ability used to atonement. You ignore any penalty from the 1st level of exhaustion. You are a tireless walker. You have advantage on Constitution saving throws when traveling at a forced march. You are a ridge climber. You gain proficiency with the athletics skill. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make with that skill. And of course, you have a staff, traveler's clothes, and a pouch. And you have resistance of the mount. The character has been atoning in purgatory for an almost interminable amount of time and is used to its inclines, its temperatures, its prohibitive environments, and a rarefied air at its higher points. They naturally adapt to higher altitudes and more extreme conditions. There's a plane there's a plane in a planescape where the entire plane is at an angle, like you're going up a mountainside, and there's no flat land. So if you were to lay down and rest, you would roll downhill. I can't remember which plane of existence it is, but it was definitely pulled into. It's one of the lower planes, and it was pulled into Planescape for Dungeons and Dragons, and I can't remember which one it is. But the two fit together, right? I think it's one of the lower planes, like Limbo or Pandemonia or something like that. Celestial longing. We absolutely positively have to. Angel. Is it Gehenna? Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. Yeah. It's one of those. Yep. Yeah. Constantly going uphill. Risen from Limbo's last one. After millennia of reclusion in the castle of noble spirits, I've never heard that described that way, at the center of the first circle, but still separated from the rest of hell, the resurrection of the flesh has led wise souls who were never baptized back to the mortal world. It offered them the opportunity to choose once and for all which side to take in the final confrontation between angels and demons. Even in these horrifying new conditions, the risen from Limbo have often shown their original talents and their many qualities, holding fast to their control and willpower even in the middle of Armageddon. After 20 years of this new life, these survivors who returned from the castle have now adapted to the changes of the earthly reality and often act as guides and confidants for all other last ones. Their accrued wisdom and authority from their century-spanning existence has become crucial in the end times. It sounds here like Limbo is like in a castle as you await judgment, which sounds different than purgatory. But anyway, there's memories from the castle. You maintain certain supernatural abilities you learned during your never-ending sojourn in the castle of noble spirits. You know the guidance cantrip. And starting at 3rd level, you can cast a bless spell. And then at 5th level, you can cast a warding bond spell. So it's kind of cool. You also have something known as discernment and declamation of courage. So under discernment, when making an ability check with a skill you are proficient with, you can decide to have advantage on your check before rolling your d20. You can have this advantage a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Essentially, it's like greater knowledge, basically discernment. And declamation of courage, you can use your action to make a short, stirring oration, shoring up the resolve to fight in those who listen to you. When you do so, choose up to 4 friendly creatures, which can include yourself, within 20 feet of you, who can see and hear you. I didn't like the wording of this. And understand you. Each creature can gain temporary hit points equal to your level. As long as the creature has these hit points, it has advantage on saving throws against being frightened. After you use this ability, you can't use it again until you have a long rest. And then there's apocalyptic bestiary. No, you do not have a monster, but you know about the apocalyptic monsters that are out here in this world. It's kind of cool. And then we're going to go over some of the character classes. Oh, the marks. Oh, maybe we might do marks later. We'll skip over marks because marks are its own thing. Basically an actual tattoo. Celestial mark, mark of the beast, 666, or mark of Enoch. This is kind of a cool piece of art right here. This is really cool. Matter of fact, let me see if we get a full image here. Sick but cool. Looks the bluish purplish blood that's pouring out. It looks thick. It's nasty. Seems like it's kind of thick. But anyway, there are character archetypes such as like barbarian and things like that. Let's get a 2-page spread here. I think if I leave the there we go. Yeah, this is it. Barbarian of the Path of Martyrdom. You wear an iron mask and basically you can martyr yourself. I think that's really cool. And nasty too. Like I said, this is about the end days. And we also have Bard of the College of Revelation. That's really cool. Speaking about the end times, new bardic college. There is the Cleric of Ruin. Yes, this cleric does have those are both symbols and weapons that the cleric has. It is a weapon and a bell is what this person is wielding, and it gives you the traits on the special weapon. The bell, battle bell, is kind of cool. Basically, you knock somebody ahead, you could definitely ring their dome. There's the Druid of the Circle of Plagues, which really fits. New Druidic Circle here. There's the Furioso, the new fighter archetype. I think the artwork is a little bit out of sorts. I mean, it is a bit of a hodgepodge, but yeah, it's a bit over the top, but I like it. I like it. I like the artwork. I don't know if it fits in the scope of this world. There is the Wormwood Spectre, a new rogue archetype. I like the medical death's mask there on the rogue, and a censer and a scythe. There's a wizard school, the Wizard of the School of Solomon. It's kind of cool right there. Knowledge. So many things. Monk of the Seven Seals, a new monastic tradition. Reminds me of what's the anime? North Star, Voice of the North Star? Fist of the North Star, that's it. Reminds me of Fist of the North Star, poking people in their chest with their finger. And then Paladin of the End of the World. Look at that Paladin, the scythe there. I'll get to your comments in just a minute. And then, sorry, I know I'm paging real quick, but we're getting to the end of the show because there's a lot of information here. There's the Bastion, the new Ranger archetype, and in some of the artwork, they do have this like kind of firearm-like imagery, even though it doesn't really talk about it much. And that's where I said like these are the last times. This might have been going on during like the Renaissance or the Industrial Age or something like that. Looks like an axe with the axe head down and a firearm right there, which would be kind of cool. And then there's a sorcerer archetype, sorcerer of the otherworldly heritage. Yeah. Which world is that? What other world would there be? And warlock of Lilith, new otherworldly patron. Lilith. And then we get to Armageddon. Also known as Gehenna, also known as Kaseri. Marks of the Beast. She says, damn, this art was awesome. Is this available as a real book? Yes. Let's do it like this. Let's see if I can get... This is the physical book. of the PDF that I'm paging through. So this is the physical book. Let's see if I can get some brighter light here. That's the physical cover of the book. Let me find some great artwork. This is the inside back cover of the book with the 4 horsemen. Let's turn to. There's a map of the world with my cursor. Damn. Let me move my cursor out the way. There it is. That's the map of with Italy at the middle of it. And let's get to some of this sweet artwork. The art direction was done by a company known as 3 Blind Mice, and let's see, where's one of the really good pieces? Oh, here we go. There we are. Rogue art type. So yeah, got it. Haven't seen True Blood. No, haven't seen that. Have not seen that at all. Sorry. Yeah, let's before we get out here. Yeah, there is the mark of the beast. So the marks are physical marks on the characters, and yes, you can choose to have which side of the conflict your character has been marked by. Now, if you are marked, it means you chose a side. If you try to go against that side after picking a mark, it means that there might be some severe retribution against you. So yes, you can choose, and for those who get the mark dice, basically you get rerolls, and they start at D4. So essentially, let's see if where's the here it is. The character has a number of mark dice equal to their proficiency bonus, and each die is a D4. When a character fails a roll, the type of roll is specified in a table below. Depending on the type of mark chosen, they can use a reaction to roll a mark die and add the result to the previous roll, potentially turning the failed roll into a success. A mark die is expended when the character uses it. All mark dice are regained when they finish a long rest. So it's a possibility. You can basically go, it looks like I failed, but maybe not, so I get to roll some more dice. Now, there is a picture of it. This is the physical representation of the mark of the Lord, fighting on the side of heaven and the angelic beings, and you're most likely marked on your forehead so everyone can see it. Yes, you can cover it up with a cloak or a hat or something like that, but for the most part you walk around with it pretty boldly, and there are different effects. But the problem is that if you roll a 1, you could get a fatal retribution that affects you, and the higher the die goes up, basically by levels, depending on what tier level you are, the greater the effect is if you fail when you try to use one of those marked dice. It's like, here's a great gift, but beware, because if you are not committed to your action, basically rolling a 1, you could suffer some kind of retribution. And then there's some example missions. You might be sent on a mission from the Lord to perform certain actions, like an angelic being may tell you, because you've been marked, you picked a side, you might be given an important mission to go on. So they give you some examples. And then here's the mark of the beast. And yes, the same thing. The dice have the same effect, and depending on which one you pick. So off to the left are the type of mark that you have, like spirit of savagery, spirit of deception, turmoil, stubbornness, frenzy, falsehood, desolation, and it gives you a certain ability. You roll the dice. If you roll a 1, there's a retribution table on the other side. It's the retribution table isn't as crazy as like wild magic, but it can get up there. The higher the number, the the worst it can get. Pretty bad. And then there's missions from the beast that you may be sent on, and then there's the mark of Enoch, and the last ones who live in Babylonia and choose not to side with the Lord or the adversary usually bear no marks. There is, however, a third way, perhaps the most mysterious, a clandestine mark that has started appearing in the city streets. So you're not on either side, and it's the mark of Enoch. And missions by those individuals. So yep. Pretty wild. In general, characters are you're all right. Oh man, it's a goodie. Buy me that book. Yeah, this is the most awesome looking D&D supplement I've seen since Planescaper Dark Sun. It's if you want a inspiration fount of knowledge and imagery, this is the book for you. When I saw the Kickstarter, I was like, this is wild, man. This is really cool. And the fact that I appreciate the fact that this comes from an Italian heritage. This book comes, I have a version of the PDF that's entirely in Italian, and I appreciate that they did it. They translated it to English. So yeah, remember the fire giant's mark of disgrace that shines through whenever they try to cover it up. I don't remember that. You guys know so much more information than I do. So anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to just spread this knowledge about this book, this supplement, whatever you'd like to call it. Very, very interesting. Like I said, I love these ink etchings and whatnot. It's really cool. Very flavorful. This whole thing is got so much flavor to it. It is crazy, and you may disagree with how they translated biblical text into gaming features and mechanics, but I think it's very interesting and awesome, and I'm appreciative of it. And lastly, before we get out of here, this just talks about the physical landscape and the gaming mechanics of the landscape as the world has been transformed, right? I mean, we have our heroes here who are standing on the precipice of what was probably a very beautiful Italian rolling hills that are nothing but jagged peaks and stuff, with the sun blotted out by the red moon or whatever the case may be. Again, here's the map of the region. You know, saying here there be dragons is probably pretty terrible, because you have to the left you have all of the evil creatures from the adversary, and then to the right you have all the hosts, and they're going to do battle right in the middle with Italy splitting the page right down here with the flames and mountains and things like that. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. Storm-wrecked regions up to the north. Wow. It's pretty cool. And then the four horsemen that have moved to the four corners of the world, and they are physical presences. They still exist. So you've got War's Domain, Italy, the Ash Mountains, and all this kind of stuff. Apocalyptic places. The actual physical mechanical features of trying to navigate in those places, such as like gouts of flame and poisonous gases and earthquakes and stuff like that. Yeah, apocalyptic mountain calamities. We've got flaming meteor, D12. Let's see, flaming meteor, earthquake, fiery rain, caustic rain, lava gout, boiling steam, scorching ground, torrid wind, steaming mud pit, sharp rocks. Yeah, and the landscape can keep changing, so it's pretty crazy. Yeah, Edge of the Abyss. There's another. If you take a good look at this piece of artwork here, at the very top, of course, on the left, you can see like a demonic creature with multiple wings and whatnot, and then at the very bottom, maybe humanoid, human-sized, is another winged being with a fiendish tail bowing before them. maybe this giant creature is sitting on a throne, but you can see like rocky steps leading up to that throne and whatnot. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, uh, game mechanic wise, their size differences actually mean something. So, yeah. Apocalyptic swamps, nasty tundras, death's domain, bodies frozen in the cold, and famine's domain, and then we'll get out of here. Famine, lifeless, you can't plant anything, it's just dust. It's not even sand, it's just lifeless earth and whatnot, so I love it. Simplify, okay, oh, hey, Simply Special, this is a newcomer of neurology I want to be a part of. Been here for 10 minutes. Well, then I'm sorry if I have any effect on your neurological outcome. It says, a multicultural James, hey there, DBJ, cool seeing a review of Apocalypse. Listen, I'm not a very good reviewer, because I don't often spend my time on things I don't like. So if I bother doing a page through, look at, whatever, deep dive, whatever you want to call it, it's usually something that has given me inspiration that I think other people could be inspired by. And I you know, when there's something creative, even if it doesn't really fit with me, but it has inspired me, I like to share it with other people. So thank you very much there, multicultural James. I really appreciate that. Damn. Speaking of meteors, remember the classic D&D spell Meteor Storm? I always wondered how a mage could cast that in a controlled manner without triggering an apocalyptic event. You know what? We are on the same page, dude, because I'm like, wait a minute, how do you there's no way you could actually control something like that. I almost feel like it was that the meteor swarm is an after effect. You're actually just basically causing an apocalypse, and the meteor swarm was like the after effect of doing that. That's how I always looked at it. But yeah, I'm with you. I am definitely with you. Like, wait a minute, you can't just open up a a portal or start a calamitous event and just act like, oh, next round is done. Like, hell's no. This is the city of Babylonia, and it's concentric circles that are leading up to the refugees that are on packing the outside of the walls and the inner walls of Babylonia, and then the inner circles until it leads up to a little place of decadence. And the player characters can be involved in the machinations inside of Babylonia, as well as finding refugees and safety and protecting the city from the outside. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Don't think of Babylonia in the context of this game as the safest place in the world, because just because everybody's gathered together here as a last refuge doesn't mean they're not bringing their bad behaviors and sins with them. And so the players could be, I mean, you could literally play player characters as police force, or political leaders, or black marketeers, or despots, or whatever in this city. So it's very intricate. I like this setting. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. You know what? We're gonna take us out on. We'll leave the map up here. We're gonna go out on this note. Guys, thank you very much for letting me just show this off a bit. Have some fun with it. Just be inspired by it. I think it's really cool. Yeah, remember, Republican name, gotta be lame. Yeah. I just said your comment section is now property of the Republic of Germany. I guess so. Hey, listen, I broadcast from the States, but it's always across the pond. And you're my envoy. You're the diplomat that speaks both. So, guys, thank you so much for letting me show this off again. let me change the viewership here part. This is Apocalypse, a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition game from Italian makers Acheron Games. There's an English language version of this as well, and just wanted to show it off. Maybe you know what, we'll delve into some more even tomorrow as well. The monster book and the Book of Revelations as well for this Dungeons and Dragons. So very, very cool. Clearly, this isn't Dungeons and Dragons any longer. They've done a really good job at keeping the mechanics and wiping away pretty much everything you think you know about classic Dungeons and Dragons, and getting that flavor into it, that even the superheroic nature of the 5th edition Creative Commons rules actually fits into this, because players tend to be more powerful. Just going over some of the creative processes, they're more powerful because this is a crazy realm that even if you start characters at first level, they're going to encounter so many more powerful entities like themselves, which I think is a good thing, because the lowest levels of Dungeons and Dragons means that players are going to have to run, hide, scramble. They should feel like they're going to get murder killed at any moment. And then if they gain more abilities, they can then become generals and leaders, admirals. I don't think that's crucial. Anyway, you know what I mean. Yeah, D&D without elves, dwarves, and halflings, what everybody's wanted. Yep. Yeah, none of that. Yes, you could be something like that in here, but I think it's pretty much useless. I think you should just play human beings at the end times. I think that's just really cool. Yeah, we'll do some more. You asked for it, so you're going to get it. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me show this off. Guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time here, this side of the interwebs. I hope in return I can make change for you. Guys, thank you very much. And of course, as always, I ask for a call to action at the end of it. Guys, have a great one. Peace.